Before speaking, I would like to offer my respects to my spiritual teachers, to our lineage, and to the highest truth. Om Agnatamrannasya Gnagna Salakaya Chaksuru Militan Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gaurativishe Namah. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hari Bol. Did anybody bring the drugs? Just asking. One of the, we face tremendous challenges on the spiritual path. It's not so easy. On one hand, we can say it is relatively easy. On the other hand, it is not so easy. What we are dealing with is the question of consciousness. I used to really hate that word. When I was younger, I'd hear people talk about consciousness, and it's just like, what are you talking about? It took a while to really get a grip on it. And I mean, consciousness is understood in a couple of ways. Of course, one has to do with the awareness. Awareness, this is consciousness. Chitta is, no, not exactly, but the reason chitta exists is because of consciousness. But then the other way in which I'm using it now has to do with the state of your being and understanding, your state of consciousness. In the yoga system, the principal focus in all paths of yoga on a rudimentary level, and even as one makes progress, is a focus on the mind and becoming an actual master of the mind as opposed to a slave of the mind. And our problem is we don't even know how bad the situation is, because we're stuck in our own head. We're stuck in our own heart. We're stuck in a state that we're experiencing. We don't know really what's beyond my current condition. I can hear about it. I can read about it. But until I actually experience these big shifts, then it's just theory. The individual being is actually covered by two bodies. You have the gross physical body. There is another subtle body, and it is constituted by the mind, mana, the intelligence or buddhi, and the ahankara. This is the false conceptions of who we are. By use of intelligence or buddhi, one can be trained to step back from the mind even when the mind is lost in some intense emotion, whether it is fear or anger, joyfulness, sexual desire, greed, anything. The mind can be overwhelmed. Anger is a good one because in anger, everybody loses the plot. When you become overwhelmed with anger, you never speak in the best interest of others. You never show kindness. You have lost all vision of what is actually reality. That I am a spiritual being in a temporary body and a temporary mind. This life is all passing. At the end, it will mean nothing. And when I address another person, I am speaking to an amazing spiritual being. Maybe they are trapped in a certain type of body and completely convinced that they are male or female, or they are old or young or fat or thin. That's called losing the plot. When you so intensely identify with the body that you can't see anything with any clarity. If a person learns to train themselves, or as a result of some spiritual development, it becomes possible even in a moment, and we're speaking here of anger, where you're overwhelmed with a feeling of anger, and you can go, this is not good. And you can say to the other person, I'm sorry, we're not doing this now. I don't want to talk about it. I need to settle down here. And it would probably be good if you did the same thing. And we go separate way. We maybe do some pranayama, we do some japa, we listen to some kirtan, we do something to restore sanity. And then when you're on an even keel, you can come back and engage. Okay, what exactly is the problem here? What is it that you're upset about? I'll tell you what I don't like. Let's see if we can work it out. You know, we don't do that. We're like really intelligent. We just go with whatever's overwhelming us. So the ability to be able to hit the pause button and step back and go, I'm not going there right now. I'm not going to follow this right now. This is the use of, whether you're aware of it or not, this is use of this higher faculty that you have. It is called buddhi. Literally intelligence. Not intelligence like PhD and know how to do all this stuff, but you know, this perceptiveness. Is this okay for everybody? Anybody feeling uncomfortable, you can raise your hand. It's cool. Radhadasi's the driver. You're not the driver. Somebody stole the wheel. Okay, no, we're good. Anyway, if you want adjustments, please don't just tolerate inconvenience so you can't focus. So, buddhi is this faculty, and the yogis in the practice of Ashtanga yoga and Sankhya yoga, there was this enormous focus on really sharpening the buddhi. There was a reason for it, but we'll deal with that in a second. The covering that is closest to you, the spiritual being, is called this ahankara, this false ego, this false conception of who I am. And that I cannot step back from. You cannot step outside of it. If it is covering you, and if you are being influenced and affected by it, you cannot step away from it. Does that sound like a bummer or what? This is reality. It's like, you know, if we got red cellophane, and I covered all the windows and all the light sources with green cellophane, and you had never been in here before, and you walked in, bam, everything is green. And if I ask you what's the color of that cushion, you will have no idea. You will have absolutely, anybody that's dealt with color separation and stuff, you know, and in graphic design, you'll know what I'm talking about. When you see a green plate, if I look at wood grain, I go, oh yeah, I know that's wood, it's going to be brown. But if it's something I'm unfamiliar with, I cannot tell you what the actual color is, because I am seeing everything through filtered light. In a similar manner, your experience of the world, your experience of your own mind, is all covered by this amazing filter called ahankara. And it is not until a person attains true enlightenment that it is gone. Until that time, you will be affected by it, you will be forced to see things in a certain way. The yoga system is not a system of mental speculation. A lot of people try to equate, the pursuit of reading so many things and trying to hear so many things and think about so many things as jnana. But that's not the real understanding of jnana. Jnana is the cultivation of actual transcendental knowledge. And this is where you have to take a step. You will be told things, you will be explained things that are beyond your experience. And so what are you going to do? Are you going to accept that, or are you going to reject it? Is this getting too serious or what? I tell you what, the pursuit of yoga is not some fluffy rainbows, unicorns, peace and love. No, that's material life. That pursuit. That is just another variety of material existence. True spiritual, the path of spiritual pursuit and actual spiritual enlightenment is something else entirely. And it has become unfortunate that in the world, well, there's two things happening. One is it's great, so many people are becoming familiar with yoga and interested in it, and when I grew up, it was like, oh my God. I grew up in a little town south of here. There were like 3,000 people, all dairy farmers. And it was just like, my God. And here I am as a little kid, and I'm going, what the hell is this all for? What's this about? Who am I? What am I doing in this family? What am I doing in this town, in this country? What's my purpose meant to be? I was just like, and I've got a little tiny library across the road from us, the Aroha Library, and it's just like, it's about the size of this room. And I've got to try and find something that will shine a light on something for me. So I stumbled across yoga when I was about 14 and began trying to cultivate a personal practice in the Ashtanga yoga process. And my God, it was like extraordinarily difficult because I really wanted to find out. I wanted some answers. And it was just like, here you are, just trying on your own. This is not the way to do it. This whole system is built on seeking and finding a spiritual teacher, a mentor, and approaching him in tremendous submissiveness. Of course, it's not just like, has that guy got a long enough beard? Is his hair long enough? Is he bald enough? Is he got the right robes on? That's all garbage. Don't lose the plot on that one. Half the people walking around like so-called holy men are incredibly unholy. I didn't say all, I said many. You'll find out, you see, in the Vedic system, people were taught from when they were young, more than anything, they were taught how to question. To question in a very penetrating way, not in a challenging and arrogant way, but with a desire to actually know. And they were taught how to question, what you should look out for, what you should try to ascertain. Because seeking someone who is going to guide your life is incredibly dangerous. You turn over your heart to someone that's basically going to hold you up and rape you or beat you over the head or turn you into a slave, submissively follow them, you've got a big problem. So there was this process for trying to ascertain the qualifications called adhikara, the adhikara of guru. And the guru was also looking at the student, ascertaining his qualification. Not that the qualification was that you knew so many things. You may be incredibly fallen. You may be an absolute reject, a total rascal. But you may sincerely want to find a way out of your situation. That sincerity was what was, the teacher was looking for. And it took some time in order to build this relationship. One of the requirements is that you must be able to trust Guru. And so there is the necessity to understand who you should be approaching, how you should be approaching, and what to expect. So that was a bit of a tangent. Well, it wasn't a tangent, we just went round in a bit of a circle. It comes from this fact that we must accept that I'm going to get into trouble if I start swearing or whatever. I've got my head in a really dark place. A dark cavity. And I can't see very well. That is the nature of material existence. And because of the influence of my false ego, the influence on the mind, and the influence of this amazing, vastly powerful energy known as Maya, I may completely be convinced I'm on the right path, I'm doing everything right, I'm going in the right direction, and I could be going off a cliff. Did anybody, I don't really like to use this as an example, did anybody see Matrix? Remember that thing from, when was that? That's like 20 years ago? Was that 20 years ago already? Probably 20 years ago. So what was the bottom line of Matrix? Those guys, the script writers, had been actually reading, obviously, some Vedic texts. What was the bottom line? The bottom line was everybody was living in what they thought was a real world. They thought that everything that they were doing was all real and permanent. And what's the revelation at the end? That all of the people were just lying in pods. And there were all these, they were tapping into the energy. They were using the energy that was being produced by all these humans. And the way they kept them in that state was to feed them this illusion. And everybody was living in their mind in this world, and they were interacting with each other and relating to each other, but it wasn't real. It was a dream. And they were like in this catatonic state. There's some serious parallels between that and the nature of material existence. The mind, unfortunately, is constantly doing the bidding of what's called the false ego, these false concepts of who I am. I was mentioning yesterday, I mean, from the point of view of a yogi, a true saintly person, they look upon this world and all life with enormous sadness. Incredible sadness. It is heartbreaking to see what the living beings are going through. If this is a life, my life in this body started at conception, and I popped out into some family, and I had a body on. And this body actually was shaped prior to its forming by my own desires. I existed before I had this body. My desires will determine the nature of the body that I will have. And my past karmic activity will mean when I show up, you know, people see the little babies show up and they go, oh, it's so cute. It melts your heart. I mean, I'm into babies. I love them. But it's weird. You know, when you hold a baby, there is just this sense, and more particularly with women. And let me just say this. I'm not a sexist. I don't think I'm a man. I know that I'm a spiritual being. Being a man or a woman is a false notion. It is taking a temporary attire that you're wearing around and believing and being absorbed in and accepting that it's you. Back to the baby. Okay, little baby. And you're looking at it, and what's the... I saw this video of a woman that just gave birth. And yeah, I delivered 3 of my own children, so I know the childbirth thing, what it's all about. And this baby has just popped out. You know, you haven't met this dude before. You've been carrying it around inside you, and you feel it moving. And it just pops out, and the lady's holding it, and it hasn't been cleaned or anything yet, umbilical cord still attached. And she sheds tears, and she said, I love you. I have always loved you. And it was just like absolutely heart-melting. But let's do a little rewind. Where was that baby about 10 or 12 months ago? It had an old, probably shriveled body, you know, smelly old people kind of thing. Maybe no teeth, coughing mucus, you know, dying of cancer or some, you know, horrible situation. Kidneys not functioning, the body filled with fluids, you know. It's really good to spend time with people that are dying and help them through the process. It's very educational. So, hey, that's where the dude was like 10 or 11 months ago. And if that person, the same person, showed up with that body, you could not cradle it in your arms and have your heart melting and exploding in love. The mere fact that that person has changed the body that they have on, now I have a whole different experience and a whole different reaction. But that's temporary also. So you're going through all these changes, and then you're in relationships, and children show up, or pets if you were into pets instead, and you're just on this emotional roller coaster. You're fighting and everything's difficult, and you're happy, and then you're fighting again, and you're struggling to acquire assets, and you're afraid you're going to be losing stuff, and everything's coming unglued and it's all falling apart. Then you up again and down again, and then all of a sudden, bam, you die. You die and you leave that all behind. And everything that you felt was so important to you, like it was your whole thing, it's gone. Sorry, gone. And you move on. Now you take another little tiny body and you pop out in another family. And then you've got this new toy to play with and it doesn't work. You can't make it talk. You can't do things. And you're getting a new kind of conditioning, cultural conditioning and all this kind of stuff. It's an extraordinary thing that is happening. The process of yoga is the search not to just end that. Because, while it may be recognized as being a suffering condition, a difficult state, the spiritual being. Are you cold?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Do you want this?
No, I'm fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a shout if you do. The spiritual being, you have an eternal nature. You desire happiness. You desire love, to love and to be loved. You desire something that is permanent and secure and safe. And you spend your life in this particular body, in this world, trying to find those things. And you cannot find them on the material plane. The nature of the material plane is that it is temporary, it is constantly transforming, everything comes to an end. Yet we are eternal, and we are seeking that which is eternal. That's a pretty long introduction. But this is the challenge in trying to share spiritual wisdom, yogic wisdom. We have to make sure as much as possible everybody's sort of on the same page. Otherwise, people are hearing something, but it's coming through a certain filter that they've got, and their appreciation or lack of appreciation, understanding or misunderstanding will be caused by the distortion of whatever conditioning and filters we have covering us. The mind is described as having the potential to be one's greatest friend or one's greatest enemy. I mean, that's mind-blowing to think about that. Your mind could be your greatest enemy. And I'm not just talking about somebody that's suffering, obviously, from profound depression and going to the point of becoming suicidal or engaging in self-harm or harming others. All of that is clearly somebody's mind has got hold of them and led them to this really deep, dark place. But even if you are having a very positive life and you're thrilled with material existence and you have these high aspirations and hopes, pretty much the same problem. It's all going to crash and burn at the end, and then you're just going to have to pick up the pieces and move on in another body, another experience of life. And so in the yoga system, it was not just about seeking liberation from this cycle known as samsara, this cycle of birth and death. Although I will say that the majority of sincere yoga practitioners were very much focused on that. But there are deeper and more wonderful experiences, the experience of true spiritual blissfulness and spiritual love. These are our desires. So it's necessary that if you want to be sincere in your yoga practice, you must really consider how you are going to walk on this path. Walking on this path will always mean following in the footsteps of a realized teacher who has gone before me. This is what the system is, this is how it works. In order to progress in spiritual life, there will always be do's and don'ts. Sorry? It ain't just do what you want, hang out, feeling the vibe. Sorry. Doesn't work that way. You know, I'll tell you something that's actually kind of scary. Sometimes people say, wow, I really like that. It really resonated with me. Can I be a little gross? Shit resonates with pigs. There was one thing I learned when I first went to India. Here I was, coming out of New Zealand, this dorky little guy, it was like, in search. And I'd never been sick. Whoa, and New Zealand's like so clean. I arrive in India, 6 weeks later, I'm just dying. I suffered so many diseases, it's just like amazing. Because I did not know how to be clean. When you live in a very clean environment, you don't actually practice cleanliness. So anyway, here I am going through my struggles. I get out of the cities, and one of the things I notice is that children, early in the morning, they would be out when it's semi-dark, heading for a railway line or the bank of a river or a field somewhere. They carry a little can with water in it because they're clean. They don't use toilet paper. They wash themselves after doing the business. And the other hand, they've got a stick. And the stick is to keep the pig away that are just wandering around. Keep it away until you're finished. Because if you don't have the stick, the pig will knock you over. Hot breakfast. I'm sorry if I'm grossing anybody out. Hey, this is the nature of this world. And this is what I mean when I said shit resonates with pigs. Depending on your consciousness, certain things will resonate with you. And just because it resonates with you, it doesn't mean it's good, it doesn't mean it's right, it doesn't mean it's in your best interest. When I say you, what is this you? This you is mostly the false idea of who I am. Oh, I'm this rather cool yogi person. I'm just, a male or female. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Well, that's who I think I am. That's who I'm calling the you. You don't even know who you are. You don't know about your spiritual existence, the nature of your spiritual personality, who you really are. If something resonates with you, the spiritual being, fantastic. Cling to that one. But just because something's resonating, you need to think, is this resonating with me, or is it resonating with my mind, my desires, the false notions of who I am? Yama and Niyama. These are the first two limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga process. And it involves certain observances, accepting things into your life, and keeping other things at some distance. And I want to say this is not about falsely renouncing things, where you try to build this false image of who you are. And as it says in Bhagavad Gita, internally, you may have restrained everything on the outside, but inside you are just filled with all this material desire. This is called a pretense. So we are not talking about, artificially just trying to keep everything at a distance. It is part of a very healthy spiritual process that teaches you how to live in balance. This balance is the balance. They talk about body, mind, and spirit. You don't want to be in balance with your mind. You want your mind and your body to be in balance with you. You're using it as a tool for your spiritual development. You're using it as a tool to seek true spiritual happiness and love. This is a whole different idea. This is not... Is this okay, or is this a bit of a struggle for people? We okay with this? Yeah? The spiritual process means that while you live a balanced and a life of temperance, a life of temperance is important because you don't want to be causing injury to yourself, your spiritual being. You don't want to do that. It's kind of like somebody's trying to light a fire. So, struggling, I light the fire, they get a fan, I'm fanning it, there comes the fire, oh, looking good, okay, we got a fire. And then with this hand I get the water and pour some water on. Oh, what happened? It went out. What the hell is that? I light again and fan it again, here it comes, okay, pour more water on it. You don't want to do that in your life, and you don't want to do that in your spiritual path. You want to get to a state where you are actually more open to the spiritual influence of this chanting process and meditation, because the purpose and objective of your spiritual practice is to immerse yourself in that which is transcendental. And in doing that, it cleans away what it is that is covering us, so our true spiritual nature can begin to be experienced and manifest. If you are going to be engaged in destructive behaviors that strengthen the false concepts that I am the body, that I can find happiness, actual happiness, through material sensual activity. No, material sensual, you can stimulate your mind and your senses and your body into an absolute frenzy. And right after the crescendo, where are you? You're all alone and lonely and empty, like before you got started. You're still in the same place. You're still alone with yourself at night. Even if somebody else is there, you are still experiencing this lack of true fulfillment. And so you think, oh, what I need to do is just, we need to add, a twist of lime and a little shot of Tabasco, and we need to amp this up. We need to dress it up. We need to do all the things to increase the sensual experience, because that will make me happy. No, It just makes you more stimulated and have more intense experiences. And as soon as they pass, there you are, back in the same place. Hey, nothing has changed. Yes, it has changed. Things have become worse. That's where it goes. That's where it goes. The use of intoxicants is so contrary to real spiritual cultivation. It's contrary because it increases the power of the mind and its hold over you, the spiritual being. You become so into the temporary experiences, and you begin to think that this is a reality. And it's not. It passes. It passes. Your body will age. You'll go through the death experience. All of that will be left behind. And then you'll just start all over again with a whole bunch of new conditioning. I used to think drugs were spiritual. I started taking them when I was about 15. That was pretty wild back then. We were the kids in our town that all the parents told their children to stay away from. But I was really interested because I was experimenting on my own with some of these processes, reading about the Kundalini and chakras and everything. And of course, most of what you read is just nonsense anyway. It's no reflection of the actual spiritual reality. And I thought that by, fasting for prolonged periods, doing hours of pranayama, then smoking some really good hash would give you these monumental out-of-body experiences. So I was experiencing that, my God, I can leave that sucker behind. But you know what? As soon as that experience is over, you have not changed an iota. The grip of the mind, the contaminated buddhi or false intelligence, the false ego, the ahankara, it has not left you. The desires of your heart, your focus on the material world to try and find relief from your emptiness has not gone away. Has not gone away. So the use of these things to try and bring transformation is not possible. It is discussed in many texts that the use of certain types of herbs and things can be used in the cultivation of certain types of siddhi. But Patanjali says this is an enormous error to seek, to run after, to try and acquire these supernormal powers. It will not, its grip is so strong that you will not attain true spiritual emancipation. It's just a subtle form of covering. It's a new kind of prison. It's still a prison. You're still inside. You're still in the prison. So my experience was when I was young, and I tried taking things up until I was 19, and then somebody shone the light on what I was doing, and I thought, okay, that's it, gone. That was the last time I did anything. But, I thought that it was spiritual, it was going to bring me to some spiritual place. I agree. It gave me an extraordinary experience that there's a hell of a lot more going on out there than what I had thought, what I grew up with. But it is not inherently spiritual, nor does it bring you to any form of spiritual realization. It can perpetuate your entanglement in the material world in all its forms. seeking to exercise control to become the master of one's mind will relieve you from unimaginable amounts of suffering and difficulty. So this is, it's kind of like, whew. I can remember when I first went to Australia, I was 18, and I was afraid to try other hallucinogenics, as I was already having all of these amazing experiences from smoking really high quality marijuana and hashish. Then I tried LSD, and it was a big letdown. But this extraordinary thing happened. The first time I took it, I started hallucinating. I was traveling on a ferry across the Sydney Harbour, and I looked up and I saw the Sydney Harbour Bridge collapse. I actually saw it collapse, and cars and people falling into the ocean. And it just like, later I'm thinking about it, my God, what an extraordinary experience. That's not happening, but due to some chemical reaction within my brain, it is projecting this reality, or what I think is a reality, into my mind, which I am observing and totally caught up in. And it was like, oh my God, this is actually what life is like. You know, I'm looking, I'm experiencing, I'm involved in life in the material world. And the nature of it is it keeps me entangled. So spiritual cultivation actually requires temperance, and it requires exercising certain control over your mind and your body. And it's not about becoming dry and empty. No, one is encouraged to dive deeply into spiritual experience, spiritual association, transcendental sound, because this now awakens a whole new world to us. Okay? That's it, folks. Was that okay? Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you all, and I hope I have not unduly offended anyone, being rather gross as I am. But I would like to... Does anybody have a question? Okay, to do the ladies before gentlemen.
You talked about drugs. Does the same apply then for alcohol?
Alcohol, you know, alcohol is by nature a depressant. People like to take it because it dulls the pain and emptiness. Most, you know, you've got two sort of categories of intoxicants. Ones that just blow your mind, you know, it's just all out there. And the other one just has you withdraw from things and feel comfortable and life is okay and I can tolerate this. It makes me forget. But forgetfulness doesn't change anything. What we need is to do something that will actually fill up that hole, that will bring spiritual nutrition to you, the spiritual being within the body. And when you do that, then you don't feel a need to dull things. I mean, it's just amazing how people are just so addicted to these devices. and now everybody's talking about how serious it's becoming, and the profound impact. I mean, it's changing the hard wiring of the brain even. It's dehumanizing us, all to get money from you. It's designed to exploit your attention. You know, advertisers figured it out. Advertising, we're going to go here. Advertising is just like this amazing thing. They figured out when they began this experiment in consumer economics that's actually mind-blowing. It's been going on since 1920. They figured that everybody feels empty. And what you need to do is present products that promise to fill up the emptiness you feel. I mean, Coca-Cola used to have a slogan, Coke is it. What? It's what? It's this subliminal, message. This is what you're looking for. I spent many years in the Philippines. They had this brilliant ad for cigarettes. The cigarette brand was called Hope. And they had this amazing jingle. It was really melodic. It stuck with people. And it went, there's a kind of hope when you light a hope. There's a kind of hope for you and me. At last you've found what you've been looking for in hope, the luxury cigarette. It astonished me. And because it's so blatant, this is the promise. So there is the recognition of this emptiness. And actually, people spending time binging on anything, whether it's watching movies or binging, just sitting in front of television, drinking, food. It's all an attempt to fill up some emptiness that is within, inner emptiness. And so when you consistently engage in that behavior, it becomes like a crutch. And what it does is allow you temporarily to not feel that. It hasn't removed it, hasn't changed it. It's just, look over there, oh, shiny, oh, wow, what's that? And then as soon as that's gone, here I'm back to just dealing with my life. So this is generally why people, even if it's not large quantities where you get completely inebriated, but the dependency upon it as a crutch to make it so, you know what? If you put your finger in the fire, what do you feel? And a candle, you put your finger over a candle, what do you feel? Pain. Pain is not a bad thing. It is a safety mechanism. If you feel pain within from emptiness, this is a message. It's telling you something. Don't just try to avoid it and not deal with it and not look at it. Yes, you need to be in a situation where you're not feeling that pain, but do something that's really going to remove it. Don't just get wasted, spaced out, just glugging away, sipping politely. It's all in the same boat.
I can very much relate to your journey. It just took me a bit longer than somebody had to time in my case. So I haven't been taking drugs for many, many years now, and I never drank a lot. But what I found is in the last 10, 15 or 20 years that I found it really difficult to be in the environment of people who are drinking or smoking. And I just want to share this. It's just for me, in the beginning when I stopped taking drugs, I still went out with people and they were drunk, and I was, yes, I'm tolerant and they drink and I don't, not a big deal or so. But then the next day I was feeling like almost having a hangover.
Yeah. Actually, the spiritual pursuit will make you a little bit antisocial. Not that you're angry or upset or don't like people. You love people. But it doesn't mean you have to go and hang out with them all the time, especially when they're doing really stuff that's bad for them and bad for you. So it is necessary to be a little, exercise a bit of discretion and discrimination. Discrimination has got a bad rap. I'm totally against it when it's, racial discrimination or something like that. But discrimination is a good thing. To learn, in Sanskrit, this is Vivek.
Yeah.
You know this name, Vivekananda, right? To derive happiness or blissfulness from being discriminating, choosing that which is really going to be good for you.
And that's the thing, I learned to be happy with myself. I don't need drugs, or I don't need people who drink.
So what we'll do, let's have a little kirtan again. I will ask you to participate with enthusiasm. Do not restrain yourself. This is the medicine. This is what brings the healing. This is an introduction. Oh, you had a question.
I was going to just ask, what's the alternative? Let's say that I recognise I want to be, in the words of Pink Floyd, comfortably numb. And I've had a hard day at work and I want to have a drink and sit and watch Netflix and I was bummed out. Is the best situation for me to do to put that aside and go and meditate? Or do a yoga practice?
Let me say this. Without considering at this time what's the right choice in that situation, as a general guideline, it is necessary for you on a daily basis to do something that is going to be gradually, step by step, transformative. That's going to bring you spiritual enlightenment, growth and everything. Don't be discouraged. Doesn't matter how bad your life may seem, how weak you may feel yourself to be, the things that you are struggling with. Don't focus on that. Don't beat yourself up. Just accept that's the reality of your current situation. But what you need to do is positive things that are going to gradually bring about change. So whether you do it, it might not be a good time to do it when you come home from the office and you want to just unwind and watch Netflix, because you might be trying to meditate and you're thinking, shit, I just got to get through this so I can get to the TV. And so you'll derive some benefit, but it's somewhat self-defeating. Think of it in terms of beginning to add things to your life that's going to change. If I've got a cup full of oil and I want the oil out, I just need to gradually add a little water. And over time, as the water sinks to the bottom, it forces the oil up and out of the cup. In due course of time, there is no more oil, there is only water in the cup. In a similar manner, by cultivating a higher taste, which will come gradually from spiritual practice, then we will have an increased ability to begin to regulate our life. This is called sadhana, your spiritual practices and what you do and what you push to the side or you infrequently do and taper down. As the flavor of spiritual experience increases, other things are shunned or set aside, not because it's bad for you and it's simply not attractive. The taste is not there. It's disappointing. It's a positive thing. Spiritual life should be a positive experience, not a negative thing. Okay, we good? Huh?
I have one question. You mentioned...
It's overtime, so it's now $10 a question. No, go.
You mentioned earlier that the people who take drugs they reach some sort of they're somewhat spiritual, but they haven't come to spiritual realization.
I'm not going to say it's necessarily spiritual. They may have experiences. I mean, I think one of the most valuable experiences a person can have is that I exist apart from my body. That's already profound. But that will not alter a person so that when they're not taking drugs and having those kind of experiences, they're just going to be gross materialists again.
Those are like hallucinations, for instance. How would that be different from being spiritual?
Hallucinations are things that occur within the mind. That is entirely different than a spiritual experience. That's a big topic, but trust me, it's entirely different. Hallucinations are dangerous because what happens is when a person takes hallucinogenics is that it increases the control of the mind over the person. There are three, oh my God, here we go, another big subject, three subtle and incredibly powerful energies that permeate the material world. It's called triguna, these three qualities. Sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance. And according to which of these you're primarily being influenced by, you will have attraction for certain type of people, certain type of food, certain type of activity. That is why you watch somebody that's majorly drug or alcohol addicted. They live like animals. Their existence is disgusting. And they see no light at the end of the tunnel. They just want to and they can't stop what they're doing because they've become so influenced by this tamaguna. In Rajaguna, a person is just propelled to achieve, to create. Cities are built by this energy. But Tamaguna leads to laziness and insanity. Rajaguna always leads to frustration and disappointment. In Sattva-guna, there is some possibility of experiencing a material happiness that is quite broad and long-lasting, but it is not yet a transcendental condition. When a person is taking hallucinogenics, they are heading towards and more under the influence of the mode of ignorance. If they continue with it, it always goes towards incredible withdrawal from life, becoming more lethargic and having no purpose, feeling self-pity, intense depression, suicidalness. These is where it goes. You can't do these things and maintain an equilibrium. You're going to be heading in one of these directions. But that's a big subject.
Kirtan time.
Kirtan time. Yeah. Let's do something about it. Enough of the talk already. We'll sing Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Hari Om. You'll pick it up. It's easy.
Om
Haribol.